Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So inshallah today I wanted to share some thoughts with you about monopolies. Now monopolies are problematic for a number of reasons. Chief one is that they take a lot of our money. And that happens through something called market dominance. Because monopolies or oligopolies own most of the market, they're able to jack up prices and really are not held accountable by the market or the consumer because they don't really have to innovate in their products. A good example of this is AT&T. Back in the day, they were a regulated monopoly, and they squashed the answering machine because they were afraid that the answering machine would, if you can believe this, would cannibalize their business. Of course, today, what's in the target of the regulators is companies like Facebook, for example, for their acquisitions of WhatsApp and Instagram. They are seen as to be acting as a monopoly, meaning that they're afraid of a competitor coming and challenging them, and so therefore they just buy out the competition. So if we look at our day, and if you start your day and you look at all the monopolies involved, it's quite surprising to see how much they're actually involved and are actually taking our money. So for example, if you start your day by going to the gym and you're wearing Nikes control about 40% of the sports shoe market. If you're taking your clothes out of the dryer just to put them on as you go to work, those dryers are probably from Maytag or Whirlpool, which control about 50 to 80% of the appliance market. If you're going to be commuting, I mean, assuming that this is it was pre-COVID-19 times, right? You would probably be on your laptop or some kind of other e-device, and you're going to come to us across a slew of monopolies. So for example, Google owns 90% of search. Facebook has 70% of the social media market. If you're using Microsoft on your desktop, as most companies do, it's about 75% of the market. And of course, if you're reading an Amazon ebook, they control about 60 to 80% of the ebook market. And then when you're coming back home and if you are going to be snacking on one of those sugary calorie bombs, probably should be doing that if you're keto especially, Mars and Hershey's together combined control about 75% of the market. And then finally, if you're going to stop by an office supply shop to buy some color pencils for the kids, it's probably going to be an Office Depot and Staples, and they together combined control about 69% of the market. And so this kind of gives you an idea of how much these companies control. They're also at the dinner table. 4 companies control 57% of the poultry market and 84% of the beef market. And if you're using glass jars, they probably come from a company called Owen, Illinois, which you probably haven't heard of, but they produce about 1 out of 2 glass bottles that are produced across the world. So that's how much monopolies are involved in. So because they have this market dominance, they're able to extract more and more from our wallets. And that's what studies have found. One study found that markups rose from 18% in 1980 to 69% in 2017. And they actually did that to market power, meaning because these firms dominated the market, they were able to charge more for their products. A second paper did an analysis of 9 studies over a 22-year period and found that most of the time there was an increased price for both the merging parties and the rival firms. We've become so accustomed to living with these dominant corporations controlling everything. I remember when I was a kid and Rogers bought out the cable company that we used to buy our cable from. We used to buy cable TV from McLean Hunter. McLean Hunter got bought out by Rogers. And I was just thinking, what's the big deal? We didn't have a choice before, so there's no real choice after. And that's interesting from an Islamic perspective that this is a problematic way of thinking. Because in Islam, anything that requires common ownership or requires use of like airways or waterways or landways, probably that is something that should be commonly owned and run by the state. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it at least gives you a clue that, hey, if this is running through land, like think about the cable operator, where do they get the permits from? They don't come and buy the land off of you. They go to the government, right? Because it's recognized that this is a common ownership. And so therefore you have to go to the owner of the common, which is, which should be the government. We should work on our interests. And in capitalism, they obviously work for the interest of the 1%. So in Islam, there is a concept of common ownership. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the ummah's partner 3 things: the water, the pasture, and the fire. So that gives us an understanding that these types of things should be commonly held in the common, and the state should run these things to the benefit of the whole community and society. The other side of it is that there's quite severe penalty and punishment for being a monopolist in Islam. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "No one monopolizes except a wrongdoer," and that's in Muslim, "and whoever strives to increase the cost of products for Muslims, Allah the Exalted will seat him in the center of the fire on the day of resurrection." And that's in Ahmad and Al-Hakim. And so this gives you an idea that Islam has a policy against monopolies. And there are many other things to explore, which inshallah we'll do in the future. But the main point here is that monopolies are not allowed in Islam, and there's a severe penalty in this life and the next life when it comes to people creating a monopoly for the purposes of raising prices, as we have seen has happened in capitalism. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.